The desert was silent. The battlefield had cooled down hours ago. Smoke still rose in thin trails from broken ships, bent metal, and scorched earth. Jared, a human scavenger, walked slowly through the wreckage. His boots crunched over glass and sand, his eyes scanning for anything valuable. He wasn't a soldier, not anymore. Now he searched old war zones for scrap, wires, and sometimes food packs left behind. But today felt different. The air was heavy, and he felt watched. His hand rested near his sidearm as he moved closer to a large alien vessel. It was cracked open like a crushed can. Black alien armor pieces lay scattered, glowing faintly in the heat. Jared climbed inside the wreck, stepping over beams and sparking wires. And then he heard it. A soft voice, barely louder than a whisper. Human. Please. He froze. No one should be alive in here. He turned quickly, gun raised, eyes sharp. Again, the voice came. Softer now. I can't breathe. Jared followed the sound, stepping deeper into the broken hallway of the ship. His flashlight flickered, and then settled, revealing something strange ahead. A figure sat slumped against the wall. Armor covering her from neck to toe. The armor was smooth, silver black with glowing veins like blue rivers. It was cracked around the chest, and strange gas hissed from the seams. Jared stepped closer and crouched. He could see her eyes now, wide, and glowing faint green through her helmet visor. An alien girl, barely conscious. Her lips moved weakly. Armor. Sealed. I can't breathe. Remove it? He stared in confusion. Remove your armor. She nodded slowly, then winced in pain. I don't know how, lady, he said. This stuff looks like ancient tech. She tried to raise her hand, but dropped it with a soft clank. You must help me, or I die. Jared hesitated. This wasn't just any armor. It looked alive, or maybe cursed. He had heard stories of alien suits that melted people's hands or turned them into monsters. But her voice, it was soft, shaking, full of fear, and she wasn't his enemy. Not like this. He slowly reached forward and touched the shoulder plate. It was warm, almost pulsing, like it had a heartbeat. His fingers tingled as he pulled gently at a seam. With a hiss, the first part of the armor loosened. The alien girl gasped, her chest rising slightly as air slipped into the gap. Good, she whispered. Keep going. Jared worked fast, unclipping, twisting, pulling. Each part came off with a strange electric tingle through his fingers. As he removed the chest plate, he saw her real form underneath. Smooth gray-blue skin, marked with glowing tattoos that moved. Slowly, like liquid, she looked fragile, barely older than a teenager. Her breathing calmed, and her voice grew clearer. You are not afraid of the armor? Jared gave a half-smile. I'm too dumb to be afraid. She almost laughed. A weak sound? No. You are chosen. What? He asked, wiping sweat from his forehead. Only one with a spark can touch this armor without burning, she said, eyes watching him closely. Jared looked at his hands. Strange blue lines had formed on his skin, matching the ones on her body. Okay. Now I'm getting nervous, he said, stepping back. But she reached out, her hand grabbing his wrist. Don't. Stop, she begged. Please. It's not just armor. It's a prison. Jared didn't understand everything, but he kept going. He removed her shoulder guards, arm plates, then the leg armor. When the last piece fell, she sighed deeply and leaned back. Eyes closing for a moment, she looked peaceful. But then, her body glowed, just for a second. A strange light passed through her and into Jared's chest. He stumbled back, falling against the wall. Visions flashed in his mind, fire stars, battles, screaming voices in alien languages, and one word repeated over and over again. Successor. Jared gasped and opened his eyes. The alien girl looked at him, fully awake now. "You touched the armor," she said slowly. "Now it has touched you." He stood, confused and shaky. "What does that mean?" Her expression was serious, eyes glowing bright now. "It means your life will never be the same again." And from the shadows of the wreck, something else moved. Watching them both, waiting, the wreck was quiet again, but Jared's heart pounded. Like drums inside his chest, he stared at his hands. The glowing blue lines were still there. They moved slowly under his skin, like something alive was flowing through him. The alien girl sat nearby, breathing steady now, free from the heavy armor. Her gray-blue skin shimmered in the light of his flickering flashlight. Jared looked at her, then back at the strange armor pieces lying on the floor. "What did you mean?" he asked. "That it touched me." She opened her glowing eyes. "The armor is not just protection. It is living history that doesn't make me feel better," Jared muttered, rubbing his palm. She pulled her knees closer to her chest and spoke softly. "Only those with the old spark. I can't awaken it." "Spark?" Jared asked, confused. She nodded. "A memory. A code. A piece of something lost. Long ago." Jared shook his head. "I'm just a junk picker, not some chosen hero." "But it responded to you," she said, voice firm now. "That means something." He looked again at the armor pieces. They didn't look like metal anymore. Up close, they pulsed with energy, with soft threads of light crawling along the edges. Some parts looked like bones, others like stone, but all fused into a strange design. He touched a gauntlet, and it shimmered, humming like it remembered him. A low vibration passed through his fingers and ran up his arm. His vision blurred, and suddenly, he was somewhere else. A battlefield, not of this world. Soldiers of her kind marched in rows, their armor shining like stars. Above them, massive ships floated in the sky, shaped like wings, and in the center one figure in armor darker than night. Jared felt the weight of that memory crash into him, and then he was back, gasping. The alien girl had moved to his side, holding his shoulder. "You saw it, didn't you?" she whispered. "The past?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I think so. That was my ancestor," she said, "the last of the true guardians. And this," he asked, gesturing to the armor, "belonged to them." "Yes," she said. "And now it's waking." "Because of you," he stood up, brushing off his clothes, trying to make sense of everything. "So, what does it want from me?" he asked. "Why would it choose a human scavenger?" She looked down, thinking, maybe because no one else would try to save me. Those words hung in the air for a moment. Jared looked at her face. Cellian, yes, but also tired, scared, grateful. "What's your name?" he asked gently. She hesitated, then said, "My true name is hard to speak in your tongue. Try me." He smiled. She looked into his eyes. "Zeralai," he repeated slowly. "It's beautiful." Her cheeks darkened slightly, a sign of her blushing perhaps. Then her eyes shifted. Suddenly alert. "We should move," she said. "This place is not safe." Jared grabbed his bag and nodded. "Where to?" She pointed deeper into the wreck. "There's a chamber. The ship's heart. It may hold more answers." Together, they moved down broken corridors, past flickering walls and cracked panels. Each step took them closer to the center of the alien ship. Along the way, the walls reacted to Jared. Lights flickering on where he passed. Zeralai noticed and whispered, "It already sees you as one of us." "That's the creepy part," he replied. "I never signed up for this." Finally, they reached a large door. Smooth like stone, but humming softly, Zeralai placed her hand on it. Nothing happened. Then Jared stepped forward, touching the door gently. It opened at once, sliding apart with a low groan. Inside was a chamber filled with floating shards of crystal. They circled slowly, glowing softly. Forming symbols in the air, in the center was a pedestal. And on it a piece of armor like a crown. It wasn't for the head, it was for the chest. Where the heart beats, Zaralai froze, her voice barely a whisper. That is the core plate. The final piece. No one has touched it in thousands of years. Jared stepped closer, drawn to it like a magnet. The plate pulsed as he neared, and a line of light reached out to him. Zaralai cried out, "Don't! Once you bond with it, there is no going back." Jared paused, hand hovering above the glowing artifact. "I didn't ask for any of this," he said softly, "but I'm already in it, aren't I, Ma?" She looked at him with fear and awe. "Yes, and now the galaxy may never be the same." The chamber felt alive. Crystals floated slowly in the air, like they were breathing. Jared stood still, hand just inches from the glowing chest plate. Behind him, Zaralai's voice trembled. "You need to listen, human. If you touch it, your name will no longer be yours alone." Jared pulled his hand back, confused. What does that mean? Zaralai stepped forward carefully, eyes locked on the ancient artifact. "This armor," she said slowly, "it holds the memory of a name. A powerful one. Sealed long ago." Jared raised an eyebrow. "A name?" She nodded. "Not just any name. The first Guardian's name. The one who led the final battle against the Dark Spiral. And what happens if someone speaks it?" Jared asked. Zaralai looked away. "That name is forbidden, even in memory. But if spoken by the armor's chosen, it could awaken what remains." Jared stared at the chest plate again, its soft glow pulling at him like a quiet song. He whispered, "Then maybe I should say it." "No," Zaralai snapped, stepping closer. "If it's the wrong name, the armor will reject you, or worse, erase you." Jared backed away, heart pounding. "Okay, not saying anything, not dying today." Zaralai's breathing was shaky. "There's another way. A memory test. Something only the chosen can survive." He turned to her. "What kind of test?" She placed her hand on one of the floating crystals, and the entire room shifted. Lights dimmed, the ground shook lightly, and the crystals began circling faster. Suddenly, Jared felt himself falling, except his body hadn't moved. His mind was pulled into something deep, a sea of stars, fire, and voices crying in languages he couldn't understand. He saw a battlefield, endless and dark, and in the center, a warrior stood tall, his face hidden, his armor glowing like a star. Then Jared heard it, a voice calm and ancient. "You do not carry the blood, but you carry the will. Name me, and become what must return." Jared's heart raced, and before he could stop himself, he said it. The name, a name he had never heard before, but somehow remembered, Varric Talcor. The moment the name left his lips, light exploded inside his chest. He gasped, falling to one knee. The crystal screamed, spinning like a storm around him. Zaralai cried out, "You said it! You spoke his name!" Jared clutched his chest. The armor's chest plate had lifted from the pedestal on its own. It hovered in front of him, spinning gently, then slammed into his body, like it belonged there. Pain shot through every nerve. But he didn't scream. He felt fire and ice, power and sorrow. He saw stars being born, and worlds falling into black holes. And through it all, the voice whispered again, "You are the echo of the Guardian." The light faded slowly, and Jared opened his eyes. The glowing patterns on his arms had spread to his chest, forming the same symbol as the first Guardian's crest. Zaralai knelt beside him, eyes wide, full of fear and something else, respect. "I never believed anyone could speak that name again," she whispered, not without being torn apart by the memory. Jared stood slowly, armor fused to him like a second skin. "I didn't choose the name," he said softly. "It chose me." A sound echoed through the ship, then a low pulse like a heartbeat. Zarelai's face turned pale. "They heard it," she said, trembling. "They heard his name through the stars." Jared looked at her. "Who?" "The ones who ended." "Him," she replied. "The ones who swore to erase the Guardian's legacy forever." "They're coming," before he could answer. The crystals in the chamber shattered into dust, as if something had awakened and destroyed their silence. A panel on the wall slid open on its own, revealing a long corridor lit with blue flames. Zarelai didn't wait. She grabbed Jared's arm. "We have to leave, now." They ran, their footsteps echoing through the ship's core. Behind them, lights died out one by one. Jared turned his head once and saw a shadow forming in the broken chamber, a figure, tall and bent, with eyes like burning holes. Something ancient had awoken, and it was hunting the name he had just spoken. The corridor was shaking. Blue flames danced on the walls as Jared and Zarelai ran deeper into the alien ship. Behind them, the chamber where Jared spoke the forbidden name was collapsing. Something had heard it, and something was waking up. Jared's chest burned where the armor had fused to him. The symbols across his skin pulsed like a heartbeat, one that wasn't his own. "What's happening to me?" Jared asked as they turned a corner, his breath heavy. "You've triggered the awakening protocol," Zarelai replied. Gripping his hand tightly, "You've been recognized by the armor. And now the ship's systems are activating too." "Great," Jared muttered. "Wreck's about to come alive and eat us." Zarelai stopped suddenly in front of a massive sealed door. "This is the core hall," she said. Placing her palm on a glowing panel, "It will either open or kill us." "Comforting," Jared said, stepping back. The door hissed and slowly slid open, revealing a vast circular chamber filled with ancient machines, broken pillars, and a huge dark orb floating in the center. Lines of light connected the orb to every wall, every platform, and every console in the room. The air was thick and humming, like the room itself was breathing. As Jared stepped inside, the orb lit up bright white veins crawling across its surface. Zarelai looked at him with fear. "The ship. It knows you're here." Then a voice echoed through the chamber, deep and layered with static. "Protocol unlocked. Echo of Varrock detected. Commence verification." Jared spun around. "Did that thing just talk to me?" Zarelai nodded slowly. "It thinks you're the Guardian." Or his rebirth. The orb split open like a blooming flower, revealing a seat in the center, smooth metallic, shaped like it was made for someone like him. "Take the seat," the voice said again. "Begin memory alignment," Zarelai whispered. "You don't have to," but Jared was already stepping forward, his legs moving without his full permission. He sat in the seat, and the moment he did, tendrils of light wrapped around his arms and chest. Pain flashed through him like lightning. His vision went white. He saw memories, but they weren't his. 1,000 battles, fleets crashing into suns. The final cry of a dying species. He saw Varrock Talcor standing in front of a great council, refusing to bow. "I will not become a weapon to rule the stars." The memory echoed. Then he saw betrayal. Varrock fighting his own kind, sealing the armor into stasis before falling into the abyss. And now Jared had awakened what was left of that legend. The lights dimmed, and the voice returned. Identity confirmed. Protocol resumed. Echo status accepted. The seat released him, and he stood, legs shaking. The orb closed, and the room shifted, revealing a hidden platform rising from the floor. A massive map appeared in the air, showing star systems, red dots blinking slowly. Zarelai stepped beside him, shocked. These are warning beacons, all from systems that were attacked long ago." Jared pointed at a blinking red light near their location. "That's here." Suddenly, one of the lights turned black, and the map zoomed in, showing a new ship approaching fast, Hunter class. "Destroyer detected." the voice said. Time to arrival. 6 minutes, Zarelai gasped. That's not just any ship. It's one of the executioners. Jared didn't like the sound of that. Executioners? They were built to wipe out any trace of the old Guardians, she said. They destroy planets if needed. Lovely, Jared said. Already moving. We need to get out of here. The platform shifted again, revealing a long spiral ramp. Leading downward escape pods, Zarelai said. Follow me. But the moment they stepped forward, the chamber lights flickered again. And the voice spoke one last time. Echo has limited control. Defense systems online. Choose to fight or flee. Jared stopped, then looked at Zarelai. What happens if I stay? He asked. You'll die. She said softly, You're not ready to face a destroyer. He looked at the burning marks on his arms, the chest plate, still glowing softly. Then he looked at the star map again, the black dot spreading like ink. Not yet, he said, but if I run now, they'll follow us forever. Zarelai touched his arm. Then let me fight with you. Jared smiled weakly. Can't argue with a partner in glowing tattoos. They turned back to the map. Ready? To awaken whatever weapons were left inside the ancient ship the armor had chosen. The ship had listened. Now, the galaxy would see what happened when the Guardian returned, even if he wore a human face. The ground trembled beneath their feet. From above the wreckage, the sky turned blood red. Jared looked up through the broken ceiling of the ancient ship and saw it a dark figure descending from the clouds. Long and sharp, the Hunter-class destroyer, cut through the atmosphere like a sword. Its metal skin was black and jagged, with red symbols burning along its side. Zarelai's face turned pale. She whispered, They found me. Jared turned to her. You've seen that thing before? She nodded slowly, her voice tight. It chased me across 3 systems. It doesn't stop. Not until everything is ash. Inside the core hall, the ancient systems lit up once more. The map showed the destroyer's path was aiming straight for them. Enemy vessel preparing descent strike. The ship's voice echoed estimated impact in 4 minutes. Jared clenched his fists. Can we shoot back? Zarelai shook her head. This ship is old. Its weapons are sealed or broken, but the chest plate on Jared's body pulsed with light. He felt something shift inside him, like gears turning for the first time in centuries. Manual override available. The voice spoke again. Echo. Of Guardian command accepted. Zarelai stared at him. You activated the ship's combat mind. It trusts you. Jared stepped to the command console, its hand resting on the surface. The light from the armor flowed into the controls, and the entire wreck began to glow. Panels rose from the floor. Walls unfolded into turrets, and giant cannons emerged from the sand outside. What the hell? Jared whispered, eyes wide. This thing is a fortress. Zarelai touched one of the glowing panels. It was buried, hidden from the galaxy. No one knew it still had this power. The Hunter-class destroyer began charging a red beam under its hull. The sky rumbled, the air thick with static. 1 minute until weapon release, the ship warned. Jared gritted his teeth. Let's give them a surprise. He pressed his hand down. And the ancient ship answered, outside. The sand exploded as massive energy turrets fired upward. Beams of light cut through the air, striking the destroyer's hull. It shook but didn't stop. Hull damage. Minimal, Zarelai said. Reading. The data? We need something stronger. Then Jared saw a strange icon flashing on the console, a symbol that looked like a burning sun. What's that? He asked. Zarelai leaned in, eyes widening. That's the Guardian's core lance. It was a last resort weapon. Can it still work? She hesitated. Maybe? But it draws power from your body, not the ship. Jared didn't even blink. Do it. She placed both hands on the console, syncing with him. The room filled with light. Jared screamed as energy flowed from his chest plate into the system. Outside, the turrets folded away, and from the center of the ship, a long, spear-shaped cannon emerged. Glowing white, the destroyer above was ready. Its red beam now a blinding line across the sky. 10 seconds, the voice said. Jared stood at the heart of the ship, arms wide, the chest plate blazing. He shouted, "Fire!" The core lance released a single shot, pure white energy. Sharp and fast, it tore through the sky and struck the enemy ship in the center. The destroyer's red beam collapsed in on itself, then exploded outward. The enemy vessel shook violently, its hull cracking in massive lines. Zerali pulled Jared back just in time as pieces of flaming metal rained down. The ship above began to fall, not in a clean landing, but in a crash. It slammed into the desert miles away, lighting the horizon with fire. Jared fell to his knees, the armor on his chest now dull and cracked. Zerali dropped beside him, holding his shoulders. "You did it? You stopped them?" Jared groaned. "Yeah. But I think my ribs quit the job." The core hull dimmed, returning to silence, but far in the distance. Dark shapes were already rising from the burning wreckage. Zerali noticed first, pointing with shaking fingers. "They're not done." Black figures walked out of the flame stall, thin, with metal masks and glowing red eyes. "The ones who hunted me," she said, voice full of dread. The keepers. Jared stood slowly, even with pain in every muscle. He looked at her, then at the glowing remains of the Guardian systems. "If they're coming," he said, "then we stand here." Zerali stepped beside him, raising a small blade from her hip. "They wanted to erase everything I am," she said, "but now I stand with you." Together, they faced the horizon. As shadows grew closer, and above them, stars blinked as if watching the return of something long forgotten. Asterisk. The wind carried the heat of burning metal. Jared stood with his boots planted firmly on the cracked ground, the broken armor on his chest still faintly glowing. Across the sand, dark figures moved toward them, slow and steady. Each keeper was like a shadow given armor tall. Silent and wrong. Zerali stared at them, her hand trembling on the hilt of her blade. "They are not soldiers," she whispered. "They are memories with claws." Jared tilted his head. "That's supposed to make me feel better?" She shook her head slowly. "No, supposed to make you run." But Jared didn't move. Instead, he took a breath and turned to her. "Before they get here, tell me the truth." Zerali looked confused. "What truth?" He narrowed his eyes. "The armor. This connection. You knew more than you said." She looked away, her voice soft. "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything." He folded his arms. "Now's the time." Z. She hesitated, then finally spoke. "The Guardians didn't just vanish. They didn't just die." She stepped toward him, eyes shining in the light of the dying fire. "They were betrayed from within," she said, "and my family, were the ones who helped hide the last Guardian's body." Jared blinked, stunned. "You knew where he was buried?" "I grew up hearing his name in secret," she said. "I was never supposed to say it. Never supposed to even touch the armor." "Then why did you have it?" he asked. She bit her lip, her voice shaking. "Because I stole it." "What?" "Found the tomb," she said, tears in her eyes. "I didn't mean to. I only wanted to see it. But the armor called to me." Like it was waiting, Jared stared at her, realization setting in. "So the armor wasn't chasing me. It was following you." She nodded slowly. "It bonded to me first, but only halfway. It never accepted me fully." "Then why didn't it kill you?" "Because I helped it escape," she said. "I ran from the keepers. I smuggled the armor off-world. That kept me alive." Jared paced, trying to understand. "So when I touched it, it saw me as what? A backup plan." Zeralai stepped forward again, placing a hand on his shoulder. No? It saw you as something new. Jared looked at the glowing blue lines on his arms, pulsing slowly with his heartbeat. Are you saying I'm a replacement? No, she said firmly. You are a rebirth. Behind them, the keepers moved faster, now silent, coordinated, ready to strike. Then why do I feel like this is a death sentence? Jared muttered, drawing a scavenged blaster from his hip. Zeralai smiled sadly. Because it was always meant to be. She raised her blade and stepped beside him. But you're not alone now. The sky turned dark as the sun dipped behind. Thick smoke, the first keeper stopped just meters away. Raising a long staff crackling with energy, its voice was a soft hiss in the air. Return the echo. Or be deleted. Jared raised his weapon. Sorry, I don't return cursed gifts. The keeper moved with lightning speed, but Jared's armor reacted on its own. An energy shield sprang from his arm. Catching the blow, Zeralai jumped in, slashing at another keeper with her blade. Sparks flying, they fought back to back, surrounded, outnumbered, but not afraid. For each keeper they struck down, two more stepped out from the smoke, but something inside Jared was changing. With every clash, his body moved faster, stronger. The armor that once drained him now pulsed with power. He heard the Guardian's voice again in his head. Your heart decides the weapon, not your hands. He shouted to Zeralai, fall back to the platform. They retreated toward the wreck's central platform, the same one where he first activated the ship. The moment they stepped onto it, the floor lit up with ancient light. Jared stood at the center and raised his arm. The armor responded, forming. A glowing spear in his hand, shaped from memory and energy. The keepers paused, watching, calculating. Zeralai gasped. That's the Guardian's true weapon. Jared didn't wait. He threw the spear. Pure energy shot forward and exploded in a wave, knocking back the entire front line of keepers. But it wasn't enough. More rose from the flames, endless, like nightmares. Without end, Jared dropped to one knee, breathing hard. I can't keep this up forever. Zeralai knelt beside him, tears on her cheeks. There's one more secret, she said quietly. He looked at her now. Really? She nodded. If you wear the final crest, if it bonds to your core, your body will stop being human. Jared stared at her, stunned. She held something in her hands, a tiny glowing disc, pulsing with golden light. It's the true heart of the armor, she whispered. It will overwrite everything you are. He took the disc slowly, feeling its heat in his hand. And if I say no, then we run. And they chase us until the galaxy burns, she said, her voice breaking. He looked out at the coming army, then back at Zeralai's eyes. He gave her a tired smile. Then I guess I stopped being me, and without another word, he pressed the crest into his chest. The light consumed him, and the Guardian was reborn. The desert burned with the heat of war. The stars above had dimmed behind the smoke. And in the center of the ancient wreck, light poured from the human's chest like a rising sun. Zeralai shielded her eyes, watching in awed fear as Jared's body lifted off the ground, his shape blurred with the glow of power. The final crest had fused into his chest, and now there was no turning back. The armor changed. It grew thicker, smoother, sharper, as if it remembered every battle it had once fought. The cracks sealed. The dull metal became polished silver with lines of fire pulsing under the surface. His eyes opened, glowing bright gold. The last of Jared was gone. And in his place stood something new, something the keepers had sworn to destroy. Zeralai stepped forward, voice shaking. Jared, can you hear me? He turned slowly, and when he spoke, it was still his voice, but layered with something ancient. Yes, Zeralai. I remember. The keepers stopped in their tracks. Some tilted their heads. Others lowered their staffs in disbelief. One of them hissed, the echo is complete. Purge the signal. They rushed forward, Dozens of them, silent like falling knives. But Jared no, the Guardian raised his hand. A pulse of energy exploded from his chest. Flattening the sand in all directions, the first wave of keepers were thrown back like leaves in a storm. Zerli cried out, "You're controlling the armor like it's part of you." Jared's new voice answered calmly, "Because it is now." The wrecked ship came alive again. Responding to the Guardian's return, long-buried towers rose from the sand, glowing with the same golden light. Hidden drones burst from the earth, circling above with energy spears aimed and ready. The remaining keepers tried to regroup. But the battlefield was no longer theirs. Jared moved like lightning. His armor formed weapons out of light blades, shields, whips of pure memory, one by one. He tore through the keepers, not with rage, but with purpose. He didn't just fight, he led, and the systems of the ship followed every step he made. Zerli joined the fight. Dashing beside him, her smaller blade striking with precision. The two of them moved in rhythm, like they had trained together for years. But the keepers weren't finished. At the edge of the battlefield, one figure stepped forward. Taller than the others, its armor was layered in black and red, and its eyes burned with hatred. Zerli gasped, "That's not a keeper. That's an archhunter." The ground cracked beneath its feet as it marched toward them. Jared stepped forward to meet it. The archhunter raised both arms, and black energy burst from the sky. Forming chains of shadow around Jared, he dropped to one knee, struggling as the armor sparked. Zerli screamed, rushing to his side, but another chain wrapped around her ankle, dragging her back. The archhunter's voice filled the air. "You are not the Guardian. You are an imitation." Jared looked up, pain in his eyes. "Maybe, but I still stand." With a roar, he slammed his hand into the ground, and the armor responded. The golden crest on his chest shined like a sun, and the chains shattered into sparks. He rose again, taller, stronger, his form now glowing with full force. "Not an imitation," he said, his voice shaking the very air. "I am the return." He charged at the archhunter, their weapons clashing in an explosion of light and darkness. Zerli broke free from the chains and joined the fight, striking at the hunter's legs while Jared battled head-on with a final burst of energy. Jared pierced the archhunter's core with a spear of pure light. The creature let out a soundless scream as its body cracked and fell into dust. The battlefield fell silent. Only the wind remained. Jared turned slowly, the light on his chest fading to a steady glow. Zerli walked to him, her eyes wide with emotion. "You stopped them. You stopped everything." Jared looked down at his hands. "I don't feel like me anymore. You are still you," she said softly. "Just more." He looked up at the stars, now clear above the smoke. "They'll come again, won't they?" he asked. Zerli nodded. "They always do." He took a deep breath, the armor folding quietly around him like it understood. "Then we'll be ready," he said. "Next time. We fight before they reach another world." She smiled. Together, he offered her his hand, and she took it without fear. They walked away from the wreck, leaving the ruins of the old war behind them. But above them, far in the dark, distant systems had already picked up the signal. The Guardian had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same again.